say, there are all sorts of proposals that have already been. I might direct you to an excellent paper that has been done by Greg Hands and other MPs in Westminster from all parties that goes through some of the ways in which you can check for contraband, check for rules of origin, check for stop smuggling, but not have checks at the frontier. That's the solution. And where there's a will, there's a way.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much.
You have been watching Prime Minister Boris Johnson and President Emmanuel Macron of France. They're speaking in Paris just a day after Prime Minister Boris Johnson met with Angela Merkel in Germany, both speaking there, laying out their thoughts on the Brexit process and the controversial Irish backstop. Prime Minister Boris Johnson reiterating the need to respect the wishes of the British people to get a deal done, and in turn asking the French president to be flexible. He coming back and saying, reiterating the need to maintain the integrity of the single market and the realities of the Good Friday Agreement. Boris Johnson said he felt, however, it was possible to do both. They will now head into a meeting to be held here in Paris today ahead of the G7 summit this weekend. That is your breaking news up to date. We'll get you back now to New Day.
Trick me into saying, can I win? I think a good challenger can win. Again, John, only if they make the moral case. This guy's unfit. He lies every time he opens his mouth. If you're not going to say that, then don't even challenge.
Is it worth running though, even if you can't win?
Yes, because this is a scary time. And if Republicans, John, stay silent in the face of this guy, I don't think the country will ever forgive the Republican Party. But forget about the Republican Party. If this guy gets 4 more years, we're in real trouble. It's worth doing anything you can do to try to stop that.
I got to let you go, but when are you going to decide by? What's the deadline date?
Labor Day's in, what, a week? If you want to get in, you got to get in sometime within the next week or so.
All right, former Congressman Joe Walsh, thank you for coming on this morning, although not revealing your intentions, maybe leaning a little bit more toward. Is that safe to say this morning?
Safe to say. Good to be with you, John.
All right, thanks, Congressman. Appreciate it. Allison?
Fascinating. Always fascinating to talk to him. To hear his newfound feelings, and to hear his future plans.
He's getting it from both the right and left. To be clear, he gets criticism from both the right and the left. The left's like, well, where were you? You said all these horrible things. The right's like, how do we
It's
leave
a precarious position to be in, but he's been in it now for a while. All right, in the 3 weeks since Dayton and El Paso, since the mass shootings there, we've seen President Trump do, well, absolutely nothing to solve the problem of mass shootings. Will we see any meaningful change to address gun violence in this country? 2 people who lost loved ones in the Parkland school massacre. Give us their take next.
Saturday on CNN. Traveling is not just about seeing places with the most likes or getting iconic photos.
Amazing.
It's about finding the city's DNA, meeting people who share its secrets. It's about making discoveries that wow you and make you feel like a child again. It's a world of wonder. Now go and see it. Saturday on CNN, in association with Turkish Airlines.
Want a daily dose of Fareed and his team? Now you can get it with Fareed's Global Briefing, the newsletter that gives you the best insight and analysis on global affairs. Go to cnn.com/Fareed to sign up.
And now, a moment of wonder from Great Big Story.
First of all, we're girly girls. We like to be cute, but we still get dirty. Every time we come out, our shoes, our outfits are always matching, our makeup is done. When the curves come on the set, it's complete chaos. Riding bikes used to be a guy thing. Being a caramel curve, we have demanded our respect. I just encourage any woman that wants to ride a bike, that thinks that she can't do it, women can do whatever they want to do. I'm gonna ride cross country. I'm gonna go live, and I'm gonna do it in heels.
For more stories like this, visit GreatBigStory.com.
I'm Nick Robinson in Aden, Yemen, and this is CNN.
When you travel the world, make sure the world travels with you. Check in, log on, and get connected with all of the latest developments at your fingertips. CNN Partner Hotels. Connected to your world.
For somebody to tell you their story, it's something I take really seriously. It's not something you can just parachute in and ask somebody to open their heart to you. To peel away the layers and to get to the heart of the person who you're telling a story about.
France will never give up against the terrorists.
Delve beneath the surface of what's happening. You can hear their story. You're going to do their story justice. You have to show yourself to them.
So right now, they're hovering pretty low over this area that's extensively flooded.
Place to tell their story.
I'm John Defterios in Abu Dhabi, and this is CNN.
I'm looking to do background checks. I think background checks are important. People don't realize we have very strong background checks right now.
And I have to tell you that it is a mental problem, and I've said it 100 times. It's not the gun that pulls the trigger, it's the person that pulls the trigger.
I have an appetite for background checks. We're going to be doing background checks.
That was President Trump saying nothing about solving the mass shooting crisis in the country less than 3 weeks after the deadly attacks in Texas and Ohio and California. Joining us now is David Hogg, the co-founder of March for Our Lives, a survivor of the Parkland School massacre, and Fred Guttenberg, who lost his 14-year-old daughter Jamie in Parkland and has since dedicated his life to the issue of gun safety. We always appreciate talking to you guys, and I'm sorry that it has to be in this circumstance where mass shootings don't seem to be getting any better. In fact, they seem to be accelerating, including the spate of arrests that have been, police have foiled potential mass shootings this week. We see it, it feels like almost every day. Fred, why is it so hard for the president and Republicans in the Senate or Congress to do something that 90% of Americans, when polled, say they want, which is expanding background checks?
You know what? It's a great question, and I'm gonna try and say it like this. I don't care why they are unable. What I will say is if they don't find a way to be able, we're going to defeat them. Because people are dying every single day. They are making this a political, listen, bullets, when they shoot you, they don't know if you're Republican or Democrat. They don't know if you're black or white. They don't know if you're rich or poor. They know if they hit you, they're going to kill you. And when we have these legislators whose job it is to do something about this and reduce this gun violence death rate, and they choose not to, when 90% of Americans are saying, here's what we want, they should be fired.
Particularly right now, David, the NRA is at its weakest point in recent memory. It's had this mass exodus of its leadership. It is hobbled by a corruption scandal, and they're still afraid of Wayne LaPierre?
Yeah, and since March for Our Lives has filed a complaint with the New York Attorney General, which helped start those investigations in the first place, I honestly can't understand the mindset that they're still afraid of Wayne LaPierre. I can't understand the mindset of the people that do still support the NRA, considering the fact that they're legally a nonprofit as a 501c3 with tax status there. And the fact that their CEO, Wayne LaPierre, has spent $240,000 on Italian suits. He's spent over $500,000 on a private jet trip with his wife to the Bahamas.
They only bought him a $6 million home?
Yeah, and I think what that tells us more than anything is the fact that the NRA doesn't care about gun owners like my father. I've grown up my entire life with guns in my household and a father that was in law enforcement. I've been shooting guns since I was in 4th grade, and I know that the NRA doesn't care about gun owners like my father because they fought against putting guns under the Consumer Protection Act, and on top of that, to ensure that there is no manufacturer accountability, they made it against federal law.
You believe that their priority are gun manufacturers, and you've always said that. But
selling guns, yes.
But on an obviously more emotional and personal note, what are these 3 weeks like for you guys when you have to watch the mass shooting in Gilroy, California, the mass shooting in El Paso, the mass shooting in Dayton? As we said, all the ones that are being foiled right now. What happens with you guys after a week like this?
You know, the day after the 2 mass shootings that happened in like a 12-hour period, I was supposed to be leaving on vacation with my wife and my son. And it was the first time where I'd actually promised them, I'm putting the phone away, I'm putting the computer away, we're gonna disconnect and get away. And then you have 2 mass shootings. And what I realized is, as much as I want to put this away sometimes and disconnect, gun violence doesn't stop. The reality is every single day, and it's not just mass shootings, because a week before those 2 mass shootings, I was in Cincinnati, Ohio, that just had its deadliest month on record. 18 killed, I think, in a 3-week period. But it's individual shootings. It's not always in the neighborhoods we're paying attention to, but it was their deadliest month on record. Shootings do not stop. They're happening every day, and until, and I said to David earlier, without getting into the details of his plan, I love the goal of it, which is reducing the gun violence death rate in half, okay? Until we have serious legislators who have a goal of reducing the gun violence death rate, we need to keep the pressure on them and either get them to do their jobs or show up at this next vote and fire them.
And I am going to get to your plan in 1 second, but just for you, David, I mean, you're obviously so active, you're so vocal, and what happens during these couple of weeks for you?
It's painful. It's really painful to see people that claim that they represent us because we claim to be in a representative democracy, rather, that don't agree to do something that 90% of Americans support in the first place because of corporate special interests, right? And it's painful for me to see it because I know from my journeys across the country and meeting survivors of suicide, specifically around gun suicide, meeting survivors of, unintentional shootings and survivors of everyday gun violence, where there are millions of children that have to walk to and from school on a daily basis, oftentimes over bloodstained sidewalks and through police caution tape that don't get on the news. I'm thinking about the fact that we have mass shootings every day in the United States that are not talked about as mass shootings because they're in historically marginalized communities that face record amounts of injustice.
And also because you're right, there's so much gun violence, it is hard for us to talk about it every day, and it is the most dramatic mass shootings that get the most attention. I mean, right or wrong, but there's no dearth of them, and we talk about them all the time. But you're right, you have been tackling gun violence. But remember in the days after Parkland, where the president had that emotional meeting at the White House with the family members. In their grief and their devastation, they traveled to Washington, D.C., hoping that this time would be different and that this time the president would do something. And here's what the president promised right in those days after Parkland. Listen to this.
I want to hear you that we're going to be very strong on background checks, that we're doing very strong background checks.
That's what he said after Parkland. It's been a couple of years. since then, and nothing has happened in terms of universal background checks.
Yeah, and I think what we have to realize as Americans, and what I've come to realize, is it's not going to be the Democratic Party or the Republican Party that is going to fix this problem. If we look back at American history, the only time that true movements over things that are historically considered political issues, but in reality are not, actually are able to change things is when we change our culture. And what I think we need to do more than anything is we need to realize that we can't wait for Democrats to take every part of the government, or Republicans for that matter, to fix this problem. We need people to go out there and look at the peace plan. We need people to go out there and do these things because they realize that talking about how to prevent future tragedies from happening is not politicizing trauma, because what they are talking about is peace. And in my opinion, peace is not political.
One of the things that the president said this week, in a crazy rhetorical week, that got your attention, Fred, you said that he said, quote, all victims of gun violence love him. And did you want to fact check that this morning?
I do want to talk to the president. And you showed the clip on After Parkland. My daughter died in Parkland. I live with that every second of every day. And he lied to me and all the other victims that day, and he's done it again since the other mass shootings. When he talks about doing the right thing for a brief second, and then he says, but I spoke to the NRA, and walks away from it. So, Mr. President, let me tell you something. I don't care about you. This is not about love or hate. I don't care about you. I care about what you do. And I hate what you are doing, because you are using the pain of the victims of gun violence to speak in a way that allows you to look like you're going to do something, but only to play games with their emotions and not do it in the end. I don't care about you, Mr. President, but I hate what you do. It is time for you to stop talking on this topic until you are ready to give Mitch McConnell the go-ahead to open up the Senate and actually take on legislation. Enough. Stay out of this. Keep your mouth just quiet, unless you're ready to actually be a serious participant in this conversation. Just stop.
How is he using your pain?
You know what? Every time he puts himself on camera with a photo op, like he did yesterday, to talk about it, to say people like me love him, no, we don't. Now, I'm not going to speak for every family in Parkland, but I can tell you, I'm not the only one who feels this way, and I get to meet victims of gun violence across this country, okay? Don't talk about doing the right thing, only to go on record and say, I said I'll do it. 90% of the families and the Americans who vote want background checks, Mr. President. Stop talking about love. This is not about you. Don't worry about how people think about you. Do the right thing. Get it done. Tell Mitch McConnell to open up the Senate graveyard. Let's get this done. Enough is enough.
David, do you have a sense of why this is happening in the country? Why is this, of the 10 deadliest mass shootings in U.S. history, and we have the distinction, as we all know, among industrialized countries for having this problem. 4 of them have been on President Trump's watch. Here it is on your screen. Do you have any sense of why we have this problem in this country?
Because we live in an incredibly divided time where we have, I would argue that right now in America, we don't have leaders. Because I would argue that leaders don't lead with fear. Totalitarians lead with fear. We need leaders that lead with the courage to address the unknown and the courage to explore and embrace the curiosity of the unknown. We need leaders that tell Americans not to fear those that don't look like them, but to actually talk to them and learn to love what you don't know. And the reason why these things continue to happen is because if you continue to tell someone that they are the enemy, this person that isn't like you is the enemy, and they have easy access to guns, there's going to be a very small group of people that are extremely violent and go out and act on those things.
Yeah, we've been on a slippery slope. The NRA likes to talk about the slippery slope if we do anything. We've been on a slippery slope. So I'll just go back to 2003. It started before that, but in 2003, Jamie was born. In 2004, assault weapons ban ended. In 2005, PLACA was passed. And in the years since, you've had stand your ground laws and a whole other bunch of laws that have made it easier for those who intend to kill others to have the weapons to do so. And not just guns, ammunition as well. And so you want to know why more people are dying from gun violence? It's because in this country, we've been on a slippery slope of weakening laws that have allowed those who want to kill the means to do so.
But we're out of time, but I don't want to miss out on the opportunity to say what you're doing, what your plan is, and you do have a plan. And I think we have a full screen of all the tenets of it. So quickly, can you tell us what your plan is?
Yeah, so we basically, March for Our Lives has talked to researchers and people around the country that work around gun violence prevention and made a plan by survivors and researchers so that there don't have to be survivors in the future of gun violence. For those that want to learn more about it, even if you don't agree with everything or anything that I've ever said, what I would encourage everyone to do is please just go and look at the plan, because it's not just about creating stronger gun laws, it's also about reducing the demand and the want of someone to pull the trigger. It's about destigmatizing mental health and making us realize that inherently there is a problem with the fact that in every community in the United States, it is easier to access a gun to end your own pain, because gun suicides are 2/3 of gun deaths, than it is to access an affordable, quality therapist.
And where could people find that plan?
If people want to find the plan, they can go to marchforourlives.com, and also know that we can't do this alone. We need your support, we need your donations, but we also need your time. We need you to go out there and help us campaign on this and vote.
David Hogg, Fred Guttenberg, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
New Deal, be right back.
Denise Ho is one of the most prominent faces of the pro-democracy movement in Hong Kong, a city where protesters are fighting for greater freedom from mainland China.
This is only the beginning.
She has taken their cause to the world stage, angering Beijing. This month, we sit down with the singer-turned-activist in Hong Kong as the city faces its worst political turmoil in decades.
Some protesters are calling for a revolution. Is that what is happening right now?
Talk Asia, Sunday on CNN. Celebrate the racing season in style with CNN.
This month's Winning Pace and Elegant Life samples the delights of South Korea and explores the nation's increasing hunger for horse racing.
Winning Post and Elegant Life, Sunday on CNN, in association with Longines. Connect the world with Becky Anderson.
Getting perspective on this region from this region. Bringing you the world from our Middle Eastern hub.
Connect the world with Becky Anderson, Sunday to Thursday on CNN.
Costa Rica's adventures are great for getting the heart rate up. But every journey requires some time to wind down and find your center of gravity. We found a beach town that allows you to do both.
For me, it's like a great way to start the day. It's like you set an intention, you have a moment to feel how does it feel to be present.
Pura vida. A phrase heard here often is as much a state of mind as a way of life in Costa Rica.
Hands behind the back and let your belly fold over your legs, stretching out the shoulders.
Pura vida, for me, means being free. Being able to live in a beautiful country where you are free to say what you need to say, that is very important. Pura vida means taking care of yourself, giving a smile to every single person that you see, and just being happy.
In the village.
Many of the statues ISIS toppled were fakes.
$500 for 2 children. Just sold a